Wagwan man them, what you lot saying? I haven't done the accent in a while, but it's time to bring it back up because I'm just feeling like that. You get me? Big dog, with my chest to the sun. Hey, did you guys see those, intro pickup lines that I had? Touch this, that's husband material. Use that, it works. My Bully Podcast, Norense Odiase, this is the host of this here podcast, a podcast where we're focused on beating the hell out of your negative voice, overcoming that negative voice, overcoming that inner critic that says, I shouldn't be talking so fast right now because people can't comprehend what I'm saying. That voice that says, oh, shut up, try to be like them. That voice that says, oh, you can't branch out on the actual brilliant ideas that you have in your head. Be like everybody else and do fit like a cog in the wheel, not knowing that I'm not a machine. I'm a person with feelings, thoughts, and actions that build life. That podcast, this podcast is what we do to overcome and beat the hell out of that voice. Hi. If this is your first time, please do me one favor. Big dog, big woman. I mean that in the nicest way possible, I promise. Rate and review this podcast. It means the world to what we're building, what we're growing. I need rates. We need reviews. We need subs to push this forward. Anyways, let's get into this week's episode. This week's guest, a good friend of mine, joins the Mind Bully Podcast, Mr. AJ Tjaden. He's a director of customer success for an IT company. He has his own marketing consulting firm, and he's just a great friend, a great dude. Someone who really cares about relationships, growing, building, new friendships, new partnerships, new people. If you know AJ, he's all about relationships. I'm so grateful and thankful to have him on the podcast because he thinks just like me. Me and you are together. We're friends. That's how he thinks. That's who he is. I'm glad to share this conversation with you all. For this, to start this, we know we had yesterday and all the troubles and the problems that we had this week. And so for me to finally have you on the podcast, AJ Tjaden, welcome to the Mind Bully Podcast.
I'll give myself a little clap there. You know, Norense, it's actually really funny. How long have we known each other now? And we're on the podcast.
Bro, that's a good question. And I'm glad that you're a guest on my podcast because you should answer that question first.
I think so. I knew of you the very first time was when you guys were playing in Anaheim. And I just remember like, oh, there's this Norense guy, and because it was Andrew Sorrells and you guys were roommates. And then from there, I think I came up to Lubbock a few times, saw like Drew, you, and Davide. And then from there, we really didn't get connected until Andrew Sorrell's bachelor party and like planning that fun, like that was like Project X planning, how much fun that was.
Bro, AJ, just that's the thing. And for context, AJ Tjaden, he's a customer success manager, and he's somebody that just cares about relationships. I say this because of what he just said. During the Final Four, during the whole Sweet 16, during the national tournament, I kept hearing this guy's name, AJ did this, AJ. I'm like, who the hell is AJ? And here comes this guy. He doesn't even go to Tech, Iowa State guy that's just in flux with everybody. He knows everybody, he talks to everybody, and he was just in tune. And I got a chance to really get to know him on a personal level when we were actually planning Andrew Sorrells' his bachelor party. And that's why I really have you on the podcast, bro, because I think and I know that the type of person you are, you're a connector. You really care about people. And it's rare, honestly, for me to see someone actually invested in somebody's bachelor party every step of the way that kind of just met the guy almost. And it's just like, I don't know. I like and I crave conversations with those type of people that care about people. So, again, I'm grateful to have you on the podcast because I know your story is vast. I do want to start there, though. I do want to start there with your story. Obviously, as you should talk to anybody, you start with their story. But yours, how many places from South Korea, Vietnam, Singapore, Japan, Hong Kong, Iowa, China, this guy's lived everywhere. I just want to know that kid then, as I show my muscle for some reason, that kid then, who were you then? If you take me back behind the eyes of a little AJ back in South Korea, if I was behind your eyes walking step in that city in that day, what would I see?
I mean, I think, you know, both my parents are from Iowa. Dad grew up in a town of like 3,000 people. And my parents met at Iowa State. And I remember them telling the story that my dad came home from work. They were living in Cincinnati in 1992. And he's like, well, I signed us up for being an expat with Procter & Gamble. And, my grandma was like, oh, that's so exciting. And she's like, I can't wait to go to Paris. I can't wait to go to like Italy, London. And my dad's like, it's South Korea. Like the shift in the early days of being like, you get to go to Asia. And growing up there, being in, like you said, born in South Korea, we would travel over to the U.S. every summer, visit my grandparents. One of my brothers was born in Singapore. So we talked about this yesterday. For those that are huge Crazy Rich Asian fans, the church that she gets married in, my brother was baptized in it. Now, the church didn't look like that. But let me tell you, like, that's pretty cool. And then moving to Iowa, to Okoboji, and then moving to China, then moving back to Iowa, going then to Iowa State, where my parents, we always like to joke. They said, we'll support you wherever you want to go, as long as the check is going to Ames, Iowa, specifically 219 Ash Avenue, the fraternity my dad was in. And I was like, okay, well, guess I'm going to Iowa State. Loved it, and then kind of made my way down to Dallas and then spent some time in Asia, working for Nike over there, spent some time in Europe, studying and working abroad. And it was just the friendships you made. And then moving down here and meeting, all the Texas Tech people through, Davide, and then Davide connecting me to Andrew Sorrells, then Andrew Sorrells connecting me to Miles, and then, our relationship, like going back, like we had the bachelor party, but then remember when we drove up, I drove up because we had the flat tire. And you were like, well, what do I do? I'm like, I'll get you to the airport. You fly up to Lubbock. I'll be there. We got there 5 hours later. And then we watched Iowa State lose on that 63-yard field goal. And all I could remember you just yelling like, get out of my town. I'm like, I drove you here. You got to drive back with me.
Hey, AJ, I totally forgot about that. That is so true. And it brings it to a point. Like you never know who you meet, and we can get into this later. That's so true. That's so cool how quick we got on. And I was literally in the back seat in the fetal position while it was crazy. But no, to go back to that kid, because I do think it's crazy. Your story's unlike anything I've ever heard, honestly. Iowa State, you see this guy. If you know anything about AJ, he wears that with his heart on his chest, his heart on his sleeve. Iowa State. He doesn't care where he goes. He's Mr. Iowa State. And that's kind of why you're on this podcast as well. Like, I love people who actually love and are passionate about the things that they actually love and don't care. So, yes, I love tech. Everybody loves tech. Breathing should love tech. But I think it's cool that you're so passionate and you're confident in everything that you are about Iowa State. But no, how did that kid feel, though? Because it's easy to kind of wrap your story up in, okay, this, then that, and then I'm here now, voila. But if I'm you, but back then, I'm like, wait, I am not South Korean. And if I look around, I'm not
blonde white kid, traveling
exactly.
around. Yeah, it was different. It really forced me to make new friends every year. You're going to an international school, and most of the time, the next year, even at a young age, people are leaving. New people are coming in. So you have to make new friends. You have to adapt. Like, being on a 14-hour plane ride, how planes now have Wi-Fi and tablets and those screens. Like, from Chicago to Tokyo, there was one screen at the front of the plane. So you pretty much had to like watch that movie or, find some way to entertain yourself. So we just became such infatuated with just talking with people and listening to them. And, my family, we were very close. We still are.
That's tough because, again, you use the word force. And I guess when did you learn that lesson? Because it's like, I would see it like, okay, I'm uneasy about jumping into the unknown. And then you're like, okay, I kind of have to. What was that period before, like, you realized that you had to, like?
I think the moment was the second day of college. No, the first day of college. I was getting ready to go to this leadership class as a freshman. Like I was ready to go. It was a Monday night class, and this girl that I was talking to broke my heart. And I was like, you know what? I can either be sad and miss this class, or I can be excited and I can just go in and, make the most of it. So you're kind of forced up against a wall, and you have a choice. You can either be happy or you can sit around and be sad. And that's where just you have the mentality of, okay, just go with it. What's the worst thing that can happen? And that's where, like, I met one of my best friends, Tyler Lewis, in that class. Like, I still keep in touch with a few of those students that I was with, but it was just those moments where you're like, I don't know the unknown. Okay, let's go try something new. If you don't like it, go try something else. But if you do something consistent, you won't get the same outcome. And I think that's where a lot of people really need to branch out. And I mean, you know this, I love connecting people with certain friend groups with other friend groups. In college, and a few fraternity brothers are going to hate this, I used to go out to the bars with all of them, but I would leave them for like an hour. And I would do the AJ lap where I would literally walk around the bar. I'd say hi to someone, talk to them for 5 minutes, then go to the next person, then the next person. But I'd always bring someone along to tag and say, hey, have you met Ben, or have you met Nick? And just kind of connecting, hey, he's an engineer. Ben, you're an engineer. Why don't you two talk? And afterwards, the next day, one guy's like, well, AJ, you ditched me. I'm like, no, I introduced you to a new friend. Like, I'm not trying to ditch you, but I'm trying to see people, and I want to bring you along the journey. So if I introduce you to a cool person that you might have one common interest, you might have multiple common interests with them.
It just, to that point, I think you kind of touched on some things there, and I hear it totally different. You're kind of speaking at a high level point of your life and how you were, and kind of you spoke to a relationship in a class and then friendships on bringing bonds together. But if I'm thinking about your story, I guess, where does that come from? If I'm asking and posing a question to you, what do you think are some outside factors that work to craft your personality and the character you have, whether it's the environment that you were in, the parenting? What do you think kind of worked to craft this guy that you are about relationship and caring that so much?
I think what molded was the amount of times that people didn't talk to me, or when I just kind of sat back and I'm like, gosh, I'm not making any friends here. And the mindset of like,
when was that? Could you pinpoint a time where that first came up in your life?
I think that was, when I was in China. I was in 7th, 8th grade. And, a lot of kids just made fun of me just because of how I dressed. Like, I was trying to be the cool, like, I'm the cool 8th grader. I'm going to wear sunglasses and a hat backwards. And, that's where I wanted people to call me AJ instead of Andrew. And that's where a lot of people just kind of made fun of me. And I was like, forget what they say, just kind of do your own thing. And the relationship part I learned from my parents, because everywhere we traveled, we ran into friends on trips where we were traveling to like Thailand, or when we went back to Iowa. Like, I'm fortunate. I have 2 godfathers that are my dad's best friends from college, and I talk to them constantly. And no matter where we went, I'd always be like, okay, who's Homer? Who's Dave Rush? Oh yeah, those are my godfathers. I should keep in touch with them because my dad is. Or just how treating someone, even saying hi to people. Like, my favorite story is when we lived in Vietnam, we were young, and my dad used to go golfing. And it was like for 36 holes and a caddy was dirt cheap, I think like $2. And you had a caddy that would walk with you, and they would know your range. They would know, okay, you hit here, you're going to hit a 7-iron, then you 2-putt or something like that. My brother tells a story. They went back like 10, 15 years ago, and the caddy remembered my dad. It's like, oh, Mr. Kurt, how are you? Like, that's the relationship side that I get from my parents of like, just be nice to someone. You never know who you're going to run into, but it doesn't cost anything to be polite to people.
Yeah, your parents kind of cooked that in, being that type of person, high character, caring about people, whether you saw it. Because a lot of times there's a lot of times where you parents, you say, you tell a kid this way, but kids don't do what you say. They do what you do. Like they see the action. They see how, gracious you are with people instead of what you actually say. And then you mimic that. But you said something there about being picked on in school, I guess. And then you kind of just learned and turned and kind of grew from that experience. But what were the steps that you took to get to that place? Because if I'm you in another country and I'm being picked on, I'm like, bro, I wouldn't know how to handle that and become who I am in that situation. It's already kind of difficult and hard for you to be in a whole different place, whole different language, only probably you and your siblings that, familiar everything. How did you work through that?
I think it's just talking with my parents, like a lot of tough loving. And, my parents, it got really bad in high school where my nickname in high school, like I did not have a great high school relationship. I didn't like high school because I came in, freshman year and the teacher's like, we have an international student coming from China. And in walks this blonde hair, blue eyed kid. And they're like, where is he? I'm like, no. So my nickname in high school was China. And just a lot of people, I didn't like the stereotypes in high school. I kind of turned that around and I was not the best kid in high school. And my parents gave me a lot of tough love where they would listen to me, but I was not the best kid. I was some spoiled kid. We don't actually, in my family, we don't talk about my senior year of high school because it was just really bad. And it was just, I think the biggest thing was myself just going for walks or going for a run or kind of doing my own thing and talking to myself and saying, why am I feeling this way? How did you interact? Like, that's what I absolutely loved. And I think that's
for me to kind of see what you're kind of referring to in that, if you would kind of walk me through a day in your high school, because I'm really curious because you had this experience overseas and we talked about this because when you're overseas and Western culture says independent. That's why I really connect with you, because it's like I'm Nigerian American. Family values, family relationships. It really actually matters like that. Like you grow up in that. That's ingrained in you. So So I'm like, okay. I usually always say this about relationships is weird. I say, I like a little girl with some seasoning to her that's actually been somewhere outside. So I know like, okay, like she gets it. With you, kind of going from that kid picked on and then you work through that and then you come to a place in high school where you turned it on. Maybe you're the one picking on people or you're the one going through that. Kind of where did that switch? Because a lot of times we have the values of our parents, your parents, relationship building, that type of thing. But as we get into adolescence, 8 from 18, your own beliefs about how you should live your own life started coming in, and then you start acting out a little bit. I know I did, where I was doing gang culture, street culture. I thought I was somebody when I came from great parents. Like, what was that process like with you? If you would take me through a day in high school for you.
I think in high school, I have to think back because I've blocked out a lot of that memory. Because like I said, I did not like high school. It was not fun for me. In high school, it was a lot of, I had friends in different circles. And I never had one set of group of friends. And kind of talking like yesterday, like, when I can never say like I can go back to my hometown, because my hometown is not Bettendorf, Iowa. It's not Ames, Iowa. It's not Shanghai. It's like all of these places. But like I had certain friend groups that were on the football team, the cross team. Like I did theater. I did, I had work friends. I worked at this pizzeria and the Gentry Shop, this men's clothing store. So I had all these certain friend groups, but I just kept in touch with them and it kept me active to not stay in one group. And I think that's part of when we lived abroad, especially, in 7th and 8th grade in China, we had friends at different schools. So we would go see the Laughlins and the Hunts, and they were just so many good friends, but they all went to different schools in China and they were all international students. So we're like, okay, one was from Pennsylvania. They were actually here 2 weeks ago that I kept in touch with. So it was just that friend group and saying, okay, let me talk to these people and learn something from someone else instead of having that one friend group that I can always come back to, which isn't a bad thing. But I think personally, having multiple friend groups and then kind of rotating around them keeps you active, keeps you kind of on your toes, and you're still meeting new friends. And maybe you connect those two groups to form one massive group. But that's typically what I would do in high
Bro,
school. It's just go from like theater to golf to work to, and I would just kind of focus on myself. And I never really gave my parents like the credit for high school. Like my mom and dad really instilled in me, like, go get a job, focus on your schooling. And I was just kind of ready to go into college. And that's where I really blossomed. But I learned a lot from my parents in high school of just like, you don't need one friend group. You can have other friend groups. It's okay. And if someone doesn't like you, it's not your job to make them like you. Just continue to do what you do and, still be nice to them.
what do you think? This is a different question. You're one and you're literally the oldest. What do you think your siblings would say about AJ?
Oh, gosh.
Because I think
like
they have a unique angle. They have a unique angle of you in those different times.
I think, I was always the one that wanted the attention, that always wanted to be the center of attention, anything that we did. Like the go-to person. I always had to, speak my mind. And also I was kind of a little selfish in high school and middle school because, I thought I was entitled. We were very, at our family, we were very well off, like to live in Asia with 5 kids, 4 boys and 1 girl, a white family in Asia and doing all this travel that most people in the US, 90% of Americans won't have that opportunity. Like I thought I can do whatever I want and nothing applies to me. And my parents really kind of sat me down and humbled me and said, no, you need to act this way regardless of what you do or where we go for vacation. You need to focus on how you present yourself to people. And that's where like my brothers, in high school and a little bit in college, I was like, what, screw that. This is me. I'm going to go off and do this and post about it and have fun. And, which was great. But then I also added my own twist to it of, for example, if I want to go, like I missed, I took 5 years at Iowa State. Nothing wrong with it. My uncle told me going to school for 4 years is like leaving the party at 10:30 on a Friday night. And I love that. But like my 5th year of school at Iowa State, I got a double major, double minor. I actually went to Greece for a week in the middle of October to visit a friend who was playing basketball over there. And then I did it the week before I graduated as well. Like not many people do that, but it was something that I wanted to do. Was it a little selfish? Probably. But it was something that I felt that I needed to do. So my brothers would say, at a young age, selfish, immature, and probably, full of himself. And I probably still am, but I think I've toned it back a lot. And you can thank Amber for that because she's really kind of grounded me, So, yeah.
But no, everything you just said, I think there's a light side to it because like you said, in those times, it sounded like you were searching for yourself, whether you're going to Greece. You've literally lived all over. So it's like, okay, I need a break. I'm going to see my friend. I'm going to do this. It's selfish in one vein. Like you could see it from that perspective, but I see it because I resonate of this person. I'm a twin who just wants to see a different side or sees it differently or wants more, is curious, has something different to bring to the table. I think in those times, adolescence, we search for things to identify ourselves with. And whenever we find something through our different searches, that kind of sets our foundation for our belief system. For me, it was like, okay, this ball, this basketball, I can be more with the talent that I have with this basketball. For you, in terms of your beliefs and what you could do and what you were capable of, I always talk about like I can beliefs and I am beliefs. In that time, if you were to rewind, who did AJ think he was? And then who did he think he was capable of becoming in his next steps?
Yeah. I think for me, I thought I could talk to anyone about anything. And and that's true to this day. I could talk to a wall, some people say. Um, but it's just, that's something that I pride myself on from like when I was real little to, even now, just talking with people and keeping up those relationships. And that was something in my mind where relationships are so important to me. It doesn't matter where we met, how we met, social media has changed the game now with friendships and relationships. And I hate seeing people not communicating with each other. Like, I use Facebook and Instagram. Like my favorite thing to do, and you see this, is I put a poll on where am I traveling to on a plane. And because you never know, like I flew to New York, a month ago for work to see a friend. And I had 3 other people like saw that. I was like, hey, I want to meet up. And it was just kind of that cool connections that I have. And that's something where today I think I have instilled that, but I want to grow it more. I want to be big.
Like, why is that so important? Why is that so important to connect? Because you gave me something so important the other day. Like, we were talking and I'm like, I'm in my head. I want to get out of my head. He's just like, just reach out to people that helped you along the journey. Send a text. He literally, AJ sends a text every single day. I'm like, that's really cool. But why is that so important? Because a lot of people are like, don't see the value in it. For you, I'm just jumping everywhere with this story because I feel like with you, I really am to this point. I really am like zeroed in on the relationship, but I want to know about your life because it's curious. I look at your IG, you've been everywhere, you've done everything. It's like a damn travel guide. But for this question, why is it so important to find relationships and build on, social media or them or reach out? Like, why do you care so much?
So I don't think it's important, to rephrase the question, I don't think it's important to find relationships. I think it's more important to maintain relationships. And that's the biggest thing that I think a lot of people miss. And one, it's the easiest thing to do because like I had,
I disagree.
And this is what it's easy to maintain. It's so easy. And I say this because at the beginning of 2019, I went through a really bad breakup and then I didn't have a job. And like, I was all over the place. Like, that's where I met Amber. I didn't have a job. It was probably one of the lowest points at 25 years old where I'm like, gosh, I really don't know what to do. And this guy that I met, Steve, I met him and his wife through Rover, the dog sitting app. And I had been watching their dog like since I moved to Dallas. He came to me and said, hey, I have a job. I know someone that is starting his own business. He needs a customer success manager. Would you be interested in that? I'm like, sure. So Steve connected me for my customer success job, which, excelled me to where I'm at now with ShareTrue as their director of customer success. But I kept up with Steve where he said, hey, here's a job for you. And even to this day, like he and I were texting today because he's a big Stars guy. And they reach out to me to watch their dog in Dallas. It used to be Bentley. Bentley passed away. Now it's Sunny. They moved to San Francisco. But that friendship and that relationship has blossomed to not just dog sitting for them, where he helped me find a job. We go to Stars game. They came to our wedding. I got to meet their son, Logan. Like, it's that relationship and that maintaining, because you never know what's going to happen. Like, look at, with Davide, how Davide got connected, and then Andrew, you, Miles, Robert, Sandra, Shanae's parents, like that whole experience and having that tightly knit friend group in Lubbock, it takes some time to maintain, but what's the worst that can happen? Oh, sorry, I'm too busy. Like Shanae says that all the damn time. Like Shanae was in Dallas the other day and I couldn't get a hold of her because she was so busy, but that's fine. But it's just like you have your friend groups and, don't you want to, if you're at your lowest point or your highest points and someone reaches out to you, wouldn't it be nice to like catch up with them? And it's really easy.
Not to cut you off, but when I'm thinking about what you're saying, I hear you on the point of friendship, but then I kind of hear it a different way because you started it with a low point and then you kind of reference a low and a high point just now. I do want to speak to those points because it is important to have relationships and friends and the community around you during those low points. I think if I'm guessing, one of those low points was during our Final Four run. Literally me too. I lost 2 family members during that
Yeah.
low point, and literally the team and the city are kind of the only ways that I kind of got by. In your situation, you referred to a breakup. If you didn't have a community around you, if you didn't have, let's say, Texas Tech basketball, how do you think that you would have kind of walked through that time? If you were to go back and look and see how you made it through, how did you do so with the community? And I don't know, I'm just thinking, because a lot of times, like, when you go through times like that, it's so tough to even voice that you went through a relationship or breakup like that.
Right.
And thank you for sharing that. But it's like, a lot of guys, men specifically, they don't want to share that, and they kind of stay isolated, and then it's tough as hell. So kind of, how were you able to go through that during that time?
I think it was being vulnerable and telling people what happened with the relationship, how I talked to you about the relationship, and I was really embarrassed about the breakup because, long story short, went over to Asia with this woman, and she broke up with me right after the trip. Like, she wanted the trip of a lifetime to go to Asia, like places she'll never be able to go, because like the experience in Asia is very important to me. So to come back, have that experience, okay, here's the breakup. It happened on a Tuesday. I know that because it was a Taco Tuesday, and I didn't have tacos that night. So then the next day was when Iowa State played Tech in Lubbock, and I drove from Dallas to Lubbock, no music, and I was very quiet. And a lot of people actually called, like, I think I called my parents, they called a few of their friends and some other people, and people were just like calling and everything and talking to me, but I didn't listen to any music. Like, it was real quiet on the drive up there. Then we beat you guys. It's actually the only time I've seen Iowa State beat Texas Tech in Lubbock in my 5 years here in Dallas. That needs to change. But after the game, it was Shanae, Davide, and I eating Raising Cane's in the back of Shanae's car and just talking and having, kind of a heart to heart. We didn't talk about the relationship. We just kind of talked like old friends. And that's where, to me, I loved having that. So when people are at their low, I want to be there for them, to listen and to talk with them and say, hey, it's going to get better. I told you yesterday, someone's always having a worse day than you. Like, that's what my parents have taught me. Like, there's always something bigger and better out there. You just have to believe it. And the only person that's going to lift up your spirits is yourself. So you can either throw yourself a pity party, or you can say, screw it, I'm going to go do what I do best, whatever that is. And I'm going to make it the best time. And I'm going to focus on myself. And that's where, that trip to Lubbock was kind of the starting point that projected me to. Then I kind of went on this little trip where I flew to London for like 52 hours and saw all my friends in London that I hadn't seen, and then watched you guys go on the Final Four run. I didn't have a job. Shanae's parents took me in. They, said, oh yeah, we'll buy you dinner in California. Come sit with us. Shanae's parents and Shanae. And that friendship and relationship really drove to that next stage. And I was so thankful for. And it's something in the back of my head of like, if they weren't there, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in this situation where I'm at right now. I probably would be back in Iowa with my family, and that's not the last place I want to be. Not because I don't want to be around them, but I think, I love Iowa. You know this, but I fly back to Iowa every month, it feels like. But with my experience and being abroad and everything that my parents have given me, I think I can go and do something bigger and better in Texas, but I also have that hold on to Iowa. Like, I get so excited to go to Iowa. So whoever's listening and you want to come to Iowa for a game, please reach out. Like, it's so much fun to go back. The people are the nicest. My family's there. But I love being here in Dallas, and that's where, I never forget to thank the people that got me to where I'm at now, whether that was in college, high school, in elementary school, middle school. I'm trying to, Facebook, you can search for people. So I'm trying to like go back and say, okay, who's in my second grade class in Yokohama, China, Yokohama, Japan. Gosh, Yokohama, Japan at St. Moore. Like that's the relationships that I'm trying to like look back and say like they probably don't remember me, but it's kind of fun to see where did they go from 2001 to 2023 now.
That's bro, and there's a lot of ways I want to take it off of that, but I do just because it's top of mind right now. Because if I'm you,
Yeah.
and you're so analytical in the way that you think and you remember, your memory is vast, and all the things that you could literally point out. I'm like, if I'm you, that probably would make me an overthinker in a lot of things, in a lot of situations.
I overthink a lot. It's something where I have to take a step back, and Amber's really helped me with saying, "Hey, we don't need to travel every weekend. We don't need to talk about all the traveling or all the deals that we're doing. You have to take a step back and live in the moment." And that's something that I think, overthinking things. I do that with work. I do that in my personal life. If someone doesn't respond to me, like within 12 hours, I freak out because I'm like, did I say something wrong? Did I do something? But that's where you have to learn to accept it, and it will take its course. You've done everything you can. It was like one of my professors, it was Stat 226, Eric Smith. He taught me, it was our first statistics test, and he said, everyone take a deep breath. You've done everything you can. Now let it all work out the way it intended to. And I kind of like that.
But that shit doesn't work. It doesn't work because you just said if somebody doesn't take, for me, it's like we know all these things. We know everything that we're heard. We know everything that we write. But like it doesn't, it works, but it's like training yourself in that, training yourself in that. There's something that I take from that in your story. I don't want to forget it. You said something that made me think of this. I'll get back to that point. But when you were speaking to that time, whether it's you relationship, then you went to London, then you came back, Final Four run, relationships, you kind of learned through that. There's something that's so inspiring about your story, bro, because I take that you're a grinder. You're going to figure out a way. Like you just said, you were without a job through that time, and you were open and vulnerable and showing people, okay, I went through a breakup. I don't have a job, but you probably didn't know it then, but like, I'm going to make something out of myself. There's something in your story. If I'm you, I'm like, bro, well, I have a secure base back in Iowa. You said your parents, you have a well-off upbringing. I could just go back then. Why was it so important for you to stay in your lane and kind of build from what you had and do it the way you wanted to do?
Because my parents, my grandparents gave my parents every opportunity. My parents did the same for me, but at some point it's time to go make your own path. I envy my parents because they got to go live the dream that I wanted to of being in Asia in the 90s and the early 2000s. I can't do that now. Like being an expat in Asia or Europe, you can't do it anymore. Companies, they don't send people abroad for that long anymore unless you're a diplomat or you're a high-level executive. So that's where I wanted to try something new. And I'd never been to Dallas. I'd never been to Arkansas. So when I had the opportunity and they're like, keep moving further down south, I'm like, okay, let's go. But it was always important to come back to your roots and come back to seeing your friends and your family and just talking with them and saying, excuse me, thanks for getting me to where I'm at now. Thanks for helping me open my eyes and say, okay, I can do whatever I want to. And then it's kind of my own life, but bring them along for the journey. It's kind of like my parents. But when they went to Asia, they brought us.
But when you didn't have it, when you were in that time where you didn't have this idea and this perspective now, because hindsight, you could look back and say, okay, it prepared me for that. But specifically to you not having a job and saying, okay, I'm going to work and build from my connections, who I am, the relationships that I've now built, and I'm going to figure it out. Like, for me personally, it's like the pride of I can do this. I don't need I love my family.
Yeah.
I'll go back there. I don't know. Now thinking of it, if I'm you, I try to take on who you are in my thought process. It's like I don't want to bring shame or judgment because I'm the oldest. I'm doing this. I take some pride in what I do. So it's like, it's almost like I think that there's a chink in my armor and I don't want to show that. I don't know. Was there any of that for you?
There was. When I didn't have a job, my whole thing was I don't want to move back to Iowa. I want to do my own thing. I want to stay down here. I want to prove to myself that I can do it. And there was a lot of, in my eyes, like, I'm not getting to the level that a lot of people expect me to. Like, a lot of people have high hopes and high expectations of me. And for me to set that tone and to say, okay, I'm not leveling up to where I should be, and I'm kind of falling. What do I need to do to get to that point? And I reached deep in myself and I said, okay, what do I need to do? And I built out this plan where I went through all my emails and all my phone contacts. And I said, how do I know this person? Do they have a job? And if they don't have a job, do they know someone that can connect me with someone else? Do they know someone that can help me get a new job? And, all you need is one yes to find a job. But through that time, I was talking with people, getting my name out there and being vulnerable and saying, hey, I'm at this tough spot. And my parents would have done anything. They would have, but I didn't want to be, and in college, the toughest thing was being at Iowa State, the College of Business, and a lot of professors knew me as, oh, that's Kurt and Kristen's son, which, is a blessing. But I didn't want that. I wanted people to say, hey, that's AJ Tjaden, because I wanted to be my own person. I was very thankful for my parents and what they've done for the university and for myself. But to be known, it's better for me, in my opinion, to be known as, hey, that's AJ Tjaden, who is Kurt and Kristen's son, not that's Kurt and Kristen's son, that's it. His name's AJ.
Bro, so that's my God, bro. I'm sorry not to cut you out. I think that's so awesome, bro. And no, like literally, like that's what I saw. And you articulated it better than me because it's your story. But I'm like, it has to be something like that. So I'm like, it has to be. He got some shit to him because I'm the same way, bro. Like, yes, I'm blessed and we're blessed to have but I'm going to do it because I got the traits in me to do it. I know to do it. Even if I'm on my last, bro, God forbid I lose everything. If I'm on my last, I know that I'm going to build from my network and then show okay, they got something to be proud of.
Right.
Not because of, I'm doing it against them. It's because you want the people that you love to be proud of what what their investment was into you. You don't want them to, okay, I'm coming back. That was everything. Yeah. And I think that's so cool. And literally, I think this is the most important, coolest, loveliest part about your whole story, because it's like, okay, go through a breakup, but still is a huge part of literally Texas Tech last year with all the fellas building relationships. Okay, I lost a job, but I'm going to grind. I have this plan. And then you find your now wife. How are you able? It's like robotic. I switch. Okay, I don't have a girl. I go through this. I process. Oh, I don't have a job. I go through. And then walk me through that journey and finding Amber. And now you're married. That's beautiful. But how did you get to that place?
I was so fortunate where one of my best friends in Dallas, Clara, her roommate or her friend, Anastasia, was Amber's roommate and was throwing a birthday party. And we all went to medieval times, and I didn't have a job, and I was going to LA the next week, I had a job at that time. It was I'm going to get this right, February 16th, 2019, medieval times is where we met. And Amber and I are sitting next to each other. We each had a few drinks in us, and we're just talking, and I walked her. We were just talking, then we all went to the bars, and then her roommate Anastasia was like, hey, you should come back to our place. And it's 2 a.m. Okay, whatever. And we went to Crush Craft. It was the Thai restaurant that stayed open till 4 a.m. And I got fried rice for everyone. We're eating it back. And Amber told me, after Anastasia and her husband and her fiance now, Marco, went to bed, Amber and I, it's like 4 a.m. and says, "I'm tired. You should leave." Walks me to the door, gives me a side hug, pushes me out the door, loudly locks both locks, and from the other side says, "Text me when you get home." Bro, I can say this with 100% certainty. On the walk home, I deleted every dating app I was on. 100%, because I was like, that is a woman, one that knows what she wants, that's confident. And I was like, okay, I have to see her. And I was having like job interviews, and we were going on dates, and that's where like I missed her birthday in 2019 because of the Elite Eight game with you guys. Like I called her, and we had known each other for like 3 weeks, and I called her right after you guys won the Sweet 16 game. I'm like, hey, this is pretty important. Like, I want to stay out here. Like, I'm going to miss your birthday. And she's like, that's fine. And I'm like, no, but like, I feel bad. And then you know what she did the next day? When I got back from LA, I got back at 2 a.m. She picked me up from the airport at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Like, who does that after meeting someone for like a month? And then from there, like, I was going to all these job interviews, and like, we went to her favorite restaurant, 60 Vines, and I asked, like, what are we? Like, I'm a big relationship person. She's like, well, you need a job, and I don't do long distance. That's when I told her about my previous relationship and where I'm at and how I don't have a job and all this. And she's like, wow, I'm going to get you another glass of wine. And so we just kind of sat there, talked, and throughout that whole time, my whole thought process was, I want to do whatever I can to stay in Dallas and fight for Amber, because she liked me, I liked her, but this wasn't going to work abroad. This wasn't going to work, me being in, Memphis, or there was an opportunity for me to move to London or, to LA or New York. I wanted to stay in Dallas. So that's where, and she works at IBM. So she's one of the smartest, most intelligent, beautiful people that I know. And she's the whole package. So that's where, when you find someone that also can put you in your place and humble you, it's like, wow, that's someone that you absolutely want in your life. And that's where, like, then COVID happened, and that's what brought us together, where we're just, spending a lot more time, just us two, because it's just us. We're not seeing everyone. So we're going on walks, we're talking, and then proposed, and now we're here still in Dallas. And that's where she's my biggest supporter. I'm her biggest supporter. And that's just the relationship we have, to where I went through this tough time in 2019, and she's seen it all. She's been through it all. And here we're at now, married. And I'm like, gosh, there's nothing better than that. To have
you
that.
You think it would have happened so quickly if she didn't see you in that such vulnerable state?
I don't think so. I think she would have said, oh, here's this guy. Because she said, like, you're recently broken up. Like, go live the bachelor life. And I'm like, no, I found someone that I want to spend, and I will do whatever it takes. So I'm getting all these other interviews and job offers of like, hey, we want you to move to Chicago. We want you to move to Houston. And I was like, do you got something in Dallas? And that's like, I took remember I was a bouncer at Happiest Hour for the longest time. Yeah. Like, I was doing all these odd jobs to stay in Dallas for her, because I wanted to have that relationship and to grow with her. And I was so lucky that she had that open mindset. But it was that first night that she pushed me out and, and said, text me when you get home. Like, that in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to marry this woman. I know it. It's going to work.
That's
like,
so
I'm going to do whatever
bro. The thing that I kind of got there, it's like, for me and my story, and I think men in general, it's like, you're guarded. And if I was you, coming from a tough relationship, and you feel like you're taken advantage of for, like, you went to your sacred place overseas, and you're like, nobody gets to experience that. I went through that with my ex-girl, and it's over now. And it's like, it would be like this to the next relationship, guarded. But then when you meet somebody that sees you at your vulnerable state and actually wants you and is there for you and cares about you and shows that more than, because a lot of times as a man, you just want to know that you have somebody there with you, not alone. Like they don't just want you for what you will become. And they know you and they see you in that time. Like she saw you at your lowest and she was like, well, like, so I don't know. That's so cool. That's like, I'm sitting here before this. I'm like, man, that's so beautiful because I remember those moments. That's kind of when I was introduced to you in your life and just who she is and who you are. Literally, I swear, except for that maybe one car ride to Lubbock, I've never seen you guys like sad or anything. You're always smiling, literally only when you got a flat tire. When I saw a chink in the armor, which I think everybody would, I'd be pissed. Like, so it's like, it's beautiful to see those type of people on one side and then get to like dive into your story and then like, okay, that's actually like that's who he is, who they were. That's really cool. I don't know, bro, with your story, I'm ADD. I jump a lot. Obviously you work for IT company and you have your own marketing consultant firm. I haven't even gotten to any of that. I haven't touched it. I don't know if I will because of this, bro. It's like the relationship and just, I don't know. It's a lot of unsaid with you, bro. It's like you always bring this energy, this life, like this, you always kind of have that for people. There is something that you said in your form, making time versus finding time.
Yeah.
In your definition, in your words, what's the difference?
A huge difference. Finding time is a cop-out. Anyone can, I don't have enough time to see you. I'll find time. Like, okay, whatever. If you make time for someone, you're going out of your way to see them. So I'm like, when I go back to Ames, Iowa, I got 3 people that I go see, and they're all on my list. John Fleming, who was my best man at the wedding. He was my alumni advisor. Vern Hawkins, who is the director of admissions for like 40 years, nicest guy in the world. And then Shaker Raju, who was my marketing professor. I make time to see them. And then because when people are like, hey, I want to see you. I learned this, I think in college and right outside of, I think probably my senior year, my 5th year, and then my first year out of college, there would be people that, are traveling and all over. Like I remember one of my friends who we haven't talked in years, she was in Dallas and I reached out to him like, hey, I'm literally right down the block. Are you free to grab a drink or something? And she didn't respond for like a week, like until she got back. She's like, oh, sorry, I didn't have time to do it. And I was like, no, you could have if you really wanted to. Now I get it.
You said that to her?
No, I didn't tell her. Like I have told people like, listen, I'm like, find time to see me. I've told people that like, listen, I'm coming, find time to see me, whether it's like 30 minutes or an hour, make time to see me. Cause when I drive to Lubbock, like I hate to put Andrew Sorrells on the spot. Like he's so good at keeping up friendships and shooting text messages, but I have to like remind him like, bro, I drove up here, like, or when I was up there for the Iowa State game this year and I was stuck up there. I'm like, listen, I'm stuck up here. When's the next time you're going to see me? Let's go out to dinner. And he's like, yep, let's do it. And that's just the relationships of the difference between finding time and making time. If I genuinely want to see you, I will do whatever it takes. I will make time. Like one of my friends, Taryn, when I go up for Iowa State football games, he doesn't say like, hey, let's look for a time that works out. He says, where are you going to be at 10 a.m. before the game? I'm going to come to you. Like that right there awesome. Is a great friend. But I also have friends that, where like I've traveled to cities and they're like, hey, let's meet up. And I'm like, okay, tell me when. And then they don't respond. I'm like, make it a priority because you never know like where you're going to see people.
You're elite. Not to cut you off. You're elite, bro. Like you're analytical, you're a thinker, you have everything planned out. Literally, I was with you planning a whole bachelor party. This. Like that's how you think. But to your friends that don't think that way, do you kind of side eye like, bro, what you on? Like, how are you with them in relationship to them?
I'm going to get a lot
again, like not everybody. Yeah.
I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. I just say sorry and I just move on. Like I have some of like my best friends who I thought in college I were going to be best friends with. And I've kind of dropped them because you can only do so much in relationships and friendships of reaching out to people. And you have to learn to cut it off of like, listen, if you're full of shit, see ya. Like I've been burned so many times in those friendships where they only wanted one thing, where I've had people like want to be friends with me to get to something else in life, to help
What
them
else?
advance their career. And I'm like, no, I'm not a stepping stone. I'm an actual, like, you're going to be stuck with me because I want to develop that friendship. So if they don't have time to meet up, okay, I get it. But don't expect then for me to drop everything to come see you. Don't expect for, when I go back for games and you call me, hey, it's been a while since we last spoke. Do you have football tickets? And I flat out told someone, I said, haven't talked to you in 3 years. You think you're going to be the person that I'm going to give football tickets to? Like, I'm honest with people. And you have to be brutally honest with people. Otherwise, people are going to walk all over you. And it's just that tough love that I learned at a young age is
From being burned, though.
be honest.
When you say burned, it's like it's like you have an image in your head of like, okay, never again will I let this person in and they burn me. What is burn to you?
I had someone use me to get to my dad to get a job. I had someone reach out to me because they needed money and they never paid me back. I've had people use me to get great football tickets for bowl games or for basketball games, or to use my connections that I would say, yeah, I'm more than happy to connect you with someone, and then they don't follow through. And that's where I'm putting my name on there. So whatever, I will do anything for anyone, and you know this. And that's where if I make an introduction to someone, you better follow up on that. You better follow through and say, I'm going to follow up with this person. I'm going to do whatever I can to reach out to that person. If it doesn't work, that's fine. But at least I don't want to put my name out there and then you soil that name, that reputation. I don't care.
How do you, sorry, not to cut you off. How do you stay so nice and like caring? And because again, like somebody from a great background, great home, and you're smart and you have resources, you built this life for yourself, and you're starting to weed out the good friends and the people that just want to take. And if you get close enough with AJ, you know he's a caring guy, and they get close and they kind of take you for granted and try to use you in that way. How do you stay like open and not jaded? If it was me, I'd be like, all right, bro, I'm changing my demeanor around y'all. Like, how do you stay yourself?
Because you can't let one bad person or bad apple ruin who you are. Like, you have to be more grounded. And yes, I've been like, okay, now I know what the red flags to look for people. But there's also a lot of good people out there that need help. And it's kind of like when I was in college and I was that person that needed help. I was that person that needed an olive branch. So if I can do something, and that was something my dad taught me and my parents said, like, write thank you letters to people. Never be afraid to say send a thank you email to someone after an interview. Like, that goes so far, and people remember that. They remember for how you make them feel. And to just say thank you, or, if there's anything I can help with, please let me know. I do that with work with the IT company where I'm the director of customer success. Is there anything I can do to help make your system that much enjoyable? Like, people know they can call me, they can email me, and it's just going that extra step, because I get excited when people see the value in a friendship or a relationship or what I'm doing for them, because maybe they'll do it for someone else that needs that help. Like, Andrew Sorrells,
I think
this is a good story. You'll like this. Andrew Sorrells went up to Lubbock for the Iowa State Texas Tech game. The one where we beat you guys by like 25 points. And, anyways,
yeah, sure, that one.
Andrew called me beforehand and said, hey, do you know all the best restaurants? I'm like, yep, here's the restaurants, because he was taking a bunch of donors up there. And they all were like, dude, this is awesome. This is like one of the best steaks I've had, one of the best pork chops. And Andrew's like, yep, I know the right person. But then Andrew got connected with John Fleming, Wally, who is my best man. And they saw each other, and I got so excited when they sent me a selfie of them in Ames. Like, I get excited because the relationship and the bond, because now it's, when Andrew comes back up, I'm like, okay, I got to come up because I'm getting, fear of missing out with that. Like, I want to be there and experience that. But it's nice to have that friendships grow, and it's just being nice to people. Like, anyone can be like, be nice. Choose to be nice to people.
I have so many questions from that, but for you and literally our listeners' sake, I'll literally not ask the question I want to ask, because it's like, I'll ask it. I'm Norense, whatever. Just to bounce around back to your story, relationship building. You say you literally get excited about seeing a friend connect with another friend. I think that's cool. Like, but if I am the kid younger, I would think like at an early age, I didn't have that cohort. I didn't have that close knit group of friends. So it's like whenever I can pay it forward and do that for people now, it's literally gives me life, because I know what it feels like to be isolated. I know what it feels like to just go from country to country, bouncing around, like loose connection. It's like not really having the deep friendships that everybody else have that grew up together. It's just like, all right, bye. I'll see you later. Never see you. Never see you later. See you never. Like, it's those kind of things that when you grow up later, you're like, okay, relationships really matter. So when either I'm building the relationship or I see the relationships built, like, I really find that valuable. I don't know. I'm searching. Do you resonate with any of that?
I do. And you never know who you're going to meet. You never know what's going to happen. Like, my parents, they never would have thought that they're going to be spending all that time in Asia, going to like Vietnam, Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong. Like, who would have thought that? And you just take it with a grain of salt, and to really just take it all in, be thankful, and try to pay it forward. Because there's always someone struggling that wants what you have. And I struggled through, and I had a lot of mentors that helped me get there. I'm like, gosh, I would love to be a mentor to people. I would love for someone to reach out and say, hey, I need help with this. And I have people that have reached out and said, hey, I need help I want to get into the international business market. I want to be more involved with IT. I had one kid said, hey, I want to be involved with basketball with Nike. And I was like, okay, I can talk with you about it. This is what I did. And then I kind of turn on them and say, what do you want to achieve? And everyone's different. But it's also kind of fun to see, okay, where are they at in 3, 4, 5 years? Like, think of, and I hate going back to this, but Andrew Sorrells, like, we talk about him because he's connected us, but how he's been from basketball to where he's at now with Texas Tech, and the demeanor, and I've gotten to see how he interacts with donors and how he has so much love for the university. If you were to tell me when I first met him, he's going to be doing that, I would have been like, nope. Like, but he's grown to that because he had so many great mentors that helped him get there. And he did a lot of it himself as well. And that's something that I'm so proud of for him and excited. It's like when TBT comes to Lubbock, I already texted him like, hey, I'm coming. Like, save me a spot.
I want to cut off your Andrew Sorrell story because I literally want to hear about this story again, because I've heard this and I think it's so cool. Like, if I'm piecing it together, because one of your mentors, literally, you, for lack of better, kind of, I'm piecing it together in my head. You go overseas and you're at this bar. And
with Nike,
your Nike experience. I want to hear that again because I've heard it hazy one time, but I think it's a cool story of how you are literally a connector and you build vibrant relationships on a whim.
So I met, his name's Christopher Thomas. We were at Mint. It was this nightclub in Shanghai, China in July of 2013. I was there for a marketing internship, and we were at this club and we were just kind of talking and having a drink, like, and it was just me and him. Like, we had just met at the club, and, I was like, what do you do? He's like, oh, I work for Nike. Like, very nonchalant, very polite. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I want to get into that. Like, I'm a golfer. I go to Iowa State. He's like, oh, cool. Come to my hotel room tomorrow. I'll show you what I do. And in my mind, I'm thinking, gosh, this is how the movie Taking gets started, Chinese edition featuring AJ. Like, I'm going to be gone. So I go to the Ritz-Carlton in Shanghai, and it's this beautiful hotel. And I walk in shorts and a T-shirt, an Iowa State T-shirt, obviously. And these 3 guys in suits, earpieces, and bulletproof vests underneath their suit come up to me and say, "Are you Mr. Tjaden?" And I'm like, "Great. Right, come with us. We're expecting you." Go into the elevator, and we go up to the very top, the penthouse here. Open up the doors, go in, and there's CT and Kevin Durant just like playing Xbox, just having a ball, just talking. And I'm like, holy crap. And from there, like, I got to spend like 2 days traveling with them. And he's like, hey, yeah, come with us. We're doing these Nike events in China. And I learned from there, from CT, where he asked me to come work for him in Indianapolis and train basketball players and work with them. And then from there, Michael Van in China had me come over to Shanghai and Beijing and do that. And from there, I met Michaela, who introduced me to Davide. And Michaela ran Nike Italy. And I just asked CT, hey, I want to get more involved with this. Who do you have that I can connect with? He sent me probably 20 people. And this was like after we had grown together and he knew that I was really serious. I was like, okay, I've reached out to all these 20 people after 2 weeks. Here's what I've got. Do you have someone else I can reach out to? And from that group of 20, each of those people gave me 1 or 2 other people to connect with. And then CT gave me another 20. So there's 20. Then let's say there's 40. And then, so now I have more and more people and just keep continuing to follow up with people because I was so driven of, I want to get over to Asia and work for Nike. I want to go over and do this. And from there, building those relationships. And that's, I always wear Nike, always Iowa State because of that relationship that I have. And it was just crazy. Like CT and I try and talk all the time now.
That's literally like the story of AJ. It's not only on the business side, but in your life, your relationships. The next person takes you to this person, this person, this person. That's how we met from a person. And I think that's so cool. And I think that we share this. And I'm just saying that because I think I'm a people pleaser. I don't try to please people, but for lack of better words, I care so much about people that I invariably start trying to please. Do you experience any of that in your life?
Absolutely. I think like I learned early on, like you can't please everyone, but you can always be nice to people. That's the biggest thing. I learned that from my parents. And yeah, you don't have to have someone like you. Like that, I wanted everyone to like me in high school, in college, and they're just people that are assholes. Like, pardon my French, but okay, let them be who they are, but I'm going to be me. I'm going to focus on being polite, being nice, killing them with kindness, and really just being genuinely myself. And you can't let someone else's problems ruin your mood and affect you. Because if you start putting yourself in somewhere where you don't belong, or you're like, I shouldn't be in this situation, you're going to take a step back and be like, I'm in over my head. What was I doing? And you learn from that. So the relationship side and being a people pleaser, yeah, go be a people pleaser, but also be aware that your biggest priority in life is making sure that you are happy and the people that you surround yourself are happy. So for me, that's my family. That's Amber. Those are my close friends. So if they're happy, I'm happy. Seeing them happy is what I get so excited about.
I have so many questions, bro, because I do struggle a lot of times with this sometimes, but with you, when you're in so many different places, again, I see you from my lens. You're at the bachelor party. You're with our team. Literally, here's this guy that doesn't play basketball, has no connection, but one player, one person, and then he builds this network. before that though, before we even know you, how was, kind of, how are you feeling kind of in that? Because if I'm you, I don't know these people. It's like, okay, I got to please them. I got to be accepted. I got to act like them. I got to laugh at their jokes. I got to what was your experience through that? If you could walk me through like your first experience around, a different group, it doesn't have to be us, but I'm just like thinking of it. It's like, that's tough.
No,
that takes courage.
I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that because that trip I was so excited for because I got to meet all the people that Drew was friends with. And I got to talk because it was a circle. So it was like 16 guys and getting to know their story. And those were 16 new friends that I could meet. So I went in there. My job wasn't to go in and please them. I just wanted people to have fun on the trip. I told you, I'm like, I don't care what we do. We're just going to have fun. We're going to enjoy it. We're going to make it about Drew. But that's where like sitting down and getting to meet them and talk with them and say, okay, everyone, this is what we're going to do. This is how much fun, this is all the fun that we had. And, sitting around the pool or playing basketball or the games or, golfing for those that went golfing on the bachelor party, that was so much fun to do. And then to see everyone at the wedding, to be like, oh, I remember him. Oh gosh, who's the guy that he's going to hate me for this, blanking on his name, who took the train from Texas to LA? What's his name?
What's his name?
I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about.
I don't know why it's not on my head. He's hilarious, bro. I saw him in Italy. He's like in Italy right now. He was in Montana. He's so funny, bro. I'm blanking too.
But that's just to see him at the wedding and to talk and hear more, about what he's doing and everyone else was just kind of really fun to see. So that's where the mindset of like, when you meet someone new, I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just there enjoying myself. I'm just there to focus on me and to make sure that I'm being genuine, because if I'm being fake to, someone else, they're going to see right through it and they're not going to see the real AJ. And the real AJ is genuine. AJ. You can ask me anything. I'll be direct. And it was just so much fun to, meet everyone and hear their stories. Like you had Miles DJing and just, oh gosh, that was, it was just so much fun. I had a blast. You couldn't have picked a better group of guys for that weekend. And it was just, okay, I get to meet new friends and they're Texas Tech fans. So I get to talk with them and, talk with Mooney, talk with Tariq, talk with you. Like you and I, we spent how many hours together on my rooftop, just like planning out and saying, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to have the money for this. We're going to plan it all out. And that was the fun part. Heck, remember when your phone, you left your phone and I saw you at the airport and we picked up the cars together? Like that was so much fun. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, it wasn't fun for me. It wasn't fun for me. but nah, bro, everything that you kind of have shared with me now is who you are in person. You're a caring guy. You're building relationship with people. You're obviously an intellectual. You're really smart, but it's like everything pieced together and you got some shit to you. That's what made you kind of vital for me to sit down and talk to you. And I'm grateful to have you on, bro. I think one last question that I ask every guest that shares and comes on the podcast with me is that negative voice, that overcoming your mind bully, whether you're in those times or this city to this city or grinding as a kid. Okay, I got to do this, but I don't know how. I don't know what. I got to build relationship, but then you lose a job. Then you lose a relationship. Then you find a relationship. All that influx, those feelings, that negative voice that says you can't, you won't ever find love. You won't ever find a job. That negative voice, your mind bully. How do you overcome that? What are your practical steps to do so?
So first, let me say, I listen to your podcast all the time and I love your podcast. So that like anyone listening to this podcast needs one to show Norense love, but listen to the podcast because there's so much going on with mental health. The biggest thing to answer your question, prove them wrong. Prove yourself wrong. Prove yourself that you can't do this. Prove yourself that I can do it. I can go out and go travel. I can be better. I can find a new job. Like you can choose to be who you want. I genuinely believe that. You choose how you want to interact with people. You choose how you want your life, and you're going to have downfalls and you're going to have roadblocks, and you choose how you want to overcome them. You can sit around and say, okay, well, I got to deal with this for a little bit, or say, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to do anything else with it. And that's where I want people to understand, like, everyone's going through this. And if you surround yourself with like-minded people, they'll help you get over that hump. You'll help yourself understand, okay, how can I release my inner mind bully to say, okay, AJ, go work out, go, meet new clients, go help yourself and be the best person you can, because you are the leader of your own life. You decide your own path. And that's where I want a lot of people to like really focus, and they can do it. And just, so what if you fail? So what if you fail? Like what's one of the statistics someone taught me or told me, like Steve Jobs went to like all these banks asking for a loan for Apple. And then all you needed was one yes, and he got Apple to be where it is. For a job, all you need is one yes. All you need is that one shot to get there. And just because you think that shot is different from where you're at is not going to be, like, times change. I thought I was going to go into international business. I went into logistics. I'm like, I know nothing about logistics. Okay, let's pivot. Let's try something new. I didn't think that I would find someone that I could spend the rest of my life with after this horrible breakup that, I was embarrassed, I was shattered, and I didn't want to go out. But my friend picked me up and said, you know what, stop feeling sorry for yourself, go do your own thing. And in myself, I'm like, you know what, they're right. I should go do my own thing, because at the end of the day, I'm the one that makes myself happy. I'm the one that decides to put a smile on my face and a song in my heart, or to sit down and mope. So you choose as we say at Iowa State, choose your own adventure, choose your adventure. And that's our tagline, but it's true. You make your own adventure.
Choose your own adventure. Well, I'm glad I went through the forest with AJ today. I appreciate it, bro. Thank you for coming on the Mind Bully Podcast. Thank you, bro.
Thank you, bro.
Genix, you going off.